Hotel Transylvania quickly became one of the most popular animated movie series of the recent decade, a story that showed us that monsters resent being misunderstood by humans, while they themselves have no idea how humans behave.
They are getting fatter so as to overpower us.
But are the ones labeled monsters truly as wicked as legends portray, or are humans the one that are truly evil?
And I know how to flesh out these beasts.
Or perhaps, human and monster should take a little more time to better understand one another and realize that there is good and evil on both sides. I'm Brad with Wicked Binge. Make sure you check in with the front desk, because this is Hotel Transylvania, good to evil.
Welcome to Hotel Transylvania.
As usual, we'll be starting with the nicest of souls, undead or otherwise, starting with the most pure and working our way down. These are the good. And our gold medal of good is gonna go to Martha, Dracula's deceased wife. While we aren't able to see her interact with the rest of the cast, she made quite the impression. She was a romantic at heart and quickly fell for Dracula, calling him her zing. She tried to live a good life with him and their daughter, only to be killed by angry humans who considered monsters like vampires to be a threat.
She was killed by your kind.
How intolerant! She gave her life to save her husband and child, but that wasn't the last of her good deeds. Since Dracula was able to save her gift to Mavis, which was meant to be given to her on her 118th birthday, she was also able to give her daughter one last piece of valuable advice. Hold on to love once you find it.
Your zing will come, my love.
A principle that would be incredibly important to Mavis later on. It's obvious that she wanted nothing more than her family's happiness. Martha, you didn't deserve to go out like that. Humans are the worst. Our second most good character has to be Dennis.
Blah, blah, blah.
He's a young child who inherited his mother's excitement and his father's passion. Being torn between cultures, he's tossed back and forth with how he's supposed to act. Since he doesn't display any monster-like tendencies, he's labeled by Mavis as human.
Dennis is not a monster!
Now, most kids in movies are given a higher ranking on the good scale, simply because they're young and haven't done anything bad. Dennis is a special case, since he was able to tap into his vampiric abilities in an effort to save Winnie from Bella.
You okay, Winnie? Yes, my zing.
He's protective of the ones he loves, and even though he's so young, he'll fight alongside them. That earns him some big hero points at a young age.
I'm a vampire and a superhero. Am I cool now?
The bronze medal of good goes to Jonathan. He's a human who unintentionally got mixed up in the monster world, and he's just a great down-to-earth guy.
Is there like a costume party here?
He wants to live it up while he can, and spends his time traveling, meeting new people, and trying new things. You gotta hand it to him. That's a pretty rad outlook. It's led him to having a bunch of tricks up his sleeve, and a ton of odd experiences to use to help to get the party going. But we're not ranking him high for his DJ skills. We've placed him here because he embraces everything with a positive outlook.
We need positive energy.
He fell for Mavis, even when he realized she was a vampire. He showed kindness to Dracula, even when Drac was incredibly ruthless when trying to get rid of him.
The last thing I wanted was to hurt her. Or you.
He even warmed up to working in the hotel, helping the staff adjust to modern technology. He was even willing to pretend he hated Mavis just to spare Dracula some heartache, and was one of the first to support Drac falling for Erica, even getting Mavis to adjust to the idea.
But you want your dad to be happy, right?
Jonathan is just a good-natured, happy guy who you can't help but like. Alright, I guess humans aren't all bad. Speaking of which, next we have the monster fans from the festival.
Can you sign my torch?
In a touching display, they proved to Dracula that not all humans think of monsters as horrid pests to be exterminated.
Love you, Dracula!
Hearing that the vampire is struggling, they're quick to offer assistance and cheer him on in the process. Like, we only see them briefly, but it's clear they're good people.
There's only one way, blah, blah, blah.
See, it's just better when everyone comes together. Next is Winnie. She's one of Wanda and Wayne's children, and practically the only child they have that's well-behaved. She is given little development throughout the series, but when we do see her, she assists in finding Johnny and shows absolute loyalty and support towards Dennis.
Come on, you can't deny it.
She helps to lie and cover up Tinkle's actually being Bob, but seeing as she's so young, we can't really hold it against her. Speaking of, Tinkle's is next on our list.
Say hi, Bob.
Hi, Bob. Dennis's fun-loving and simple pet is a playmate and protective force. The majority of the time we see him, he's just being your typical dog, exploring his surroundings and chasing after fish.
Stop it, Tinkles.
It's his role at the end of the third movie that gives him this placement. He comes to Dennis and Winnie's aid and rushes into battle against the Kraken to help protect the family. Really, he's just a good boy. Blobby is next on our list. He's used as padding for harsh landings and just sort of follows our main group and doesn't think anything of all the times he's injured on the cruise. He's a harmless Bob that just goes with the flow and enjoys life.
Blobby, there's no room. Sorry, man.
He shows immediate attachment when he splits off and creates a sort of weird offspring, creating a small dog when his kid is sad, and making sure to grab them both before they fall during the conflict with the Kraken. He's not exactly a powerful monster, but he is a helpful one. Next, we have to place the camp counselors, specifically Dana.
Is this a night? How you doing, folks? I'm Dana, the director.
Now, why are these guys so low when all they do is help kids? How could someone so nice and positive be considered anything but good? Well, we have to rank them lower because of their methods.
Okey pokey. See you at the campfire.
They're trained to help encourage young vampires, but the methods they use can be extremely damaging. They're the vampiric equivalent to a coach who gives everyone a trophy just for playing. We get that this is how counselors are told to act, but the fact that they go along with it can result in a lot of those kids growing up to have life kick them in the gut.
Give yourselves a hug.
At least they're concerned with safety and make a point of discontinuing things proven to be harmful and even fatal.
I can't not report child endangerment.
Next is Wanda. Wanda is the wife to Wayne and is shown to be either expecting or having just given birth recently. She's a mother figure and she's sweet and patient, encouraging Mavis and soothing Wayne's nerves.
Okay, honey, be safe. Bring warm clothes and a sword.
She does dump her kids off in daycare and hides when the staff tries to return them, but considering she's left with the pups when Wayne is off helping Dracula, we can't blame her too much.
You take my kids all day on purpose?
The woman deserves a break from time to time, given what a handful her pups are. Maybe a vacation that doesn't end in a Kraken attack anyway.
We're gonna book it again for the holidays.
Next is another friend in our main group, Frankenstein.
Seriously, watch out for fire. Fire bad.
He's friendly, easygoing, and usually gentle, but turns uncontrollable at the sight of an open flame. He's also easy to convince to go on these random trips, yet he tries to be a good friend, encouraging Dracula to date and insisting the old band play for Mavis on her birthday. He's quick to warm up to Johnny, but the way he lit up, thinking he might have pig strangler blood, was a little unsettling.
I have pig strangling blood in my arm? That's kind of cool.
But like most of Drac's pals, we can't fault him too much, mainly because he's always there for a friend in need. On to Wayne. He's a lot more anxious than his wife, having no issue with offering the advice to hide under a nearby porch.
It's more fun to just observe from under a house.
It's clear that he's had some bad run-ins with humans over the years, and has no interest in having more. He's easily swayed into going on these weird adventures with Dracula, likely so he doesn't have to be around his kids, which isn't good, but again, we kind of understand the guy wanting a break.
You're only supposed to make mom and dad miserable.
He clearly cares for his friends, and by extension, Mavis, since she's Dracula's daughter, but he also has no issue lying and letting Dracula drop Dennis from a high platform.
Should we go down and help him?
Moving on to Murray. Murray is a diva who's always jumping to be the center of attention. He's a strange guy to hang around.
Here comes the party!
He doesn't understand personal space the same way his friends do, and draws attention when it's typically not wanted, such as singing about Dracula being in love with Erica and her returning his feelings.
Erica loves the Drac. She can't get enough of the Drac.
He tends to be more concerned with performing and being the life of a party more than anything else. He does try to help Dennis channel his inner vampire and accepts Johnny when he hears the human in Mavis zing. He obviously wants happiness for his friend, but sometimes he just goes about it the wrong way.
Here comes the pain!
We'll chalk it up to a lot of energy. Moving on to Mavis. Now, why is she ranked this low? She is a caring daughter, a loving wife, and a protective mother.
Give me my son.
Sounds like a perfect combination to me, but much like the counselors, her overprotective nature can be damaging. That said, being a first-time parent cannot be easy.
Nice. Yeah, cute kid.
Especially since it seemed to have happened pretty soon into their marriage. But Mavis takes a lot after her own dad, in the sense that she just gets too wrapped up in Dennis and what she believes to be best for him.
I love you, Dennis.
I love you, Mommy.
We can give her credit that she embraces him being human and tries to give him a normal life, but she also pushes her father and husband away in the process. She clearly means well, trying to protect her father when she suspects Erica trying to kill him, but she tends to rush into things without thinking.
She's trying to hurt you. Why can't you see that?
Then again, she's only 126 years old. She's still so young. We finally get to the man himself, Dracula.
Prove it! All right, continue.
It's no secret this guy is wound way too tight. The entire first movie is spent with him being paranoid about his daughter being around humans. Given how he lost his wife, we can understand why he wants to be cautious. It was a generous move to dedicate himself to try and give monsters sanctuary and build a safe space for Mavis to grow up. But his reaction to Johnny was over the top.
What weapons are you keeping in this container?
He does make a point to talk to Johnny, explaining why he wants to keep Mavis and the human apart. He comes around in the end, accepting not only Johnny, but his human family. He wants to have the Dracula name live on with Dennis, but it's clear he cares for his grandson regardless.
I'm going to teach you how to turn into a bat.
He's come a long way from hating and being afraid of humans to having in-laws and falling for one himself.
What do you say? Will you marry me?
With that said, this wraps up the good characters. We're now entering more neutral territory. This is the gray area, starting with the Kraken. We don't see him often, with him only being a small role in the third movie. He's hard to place since we see him go on a rampage, destroying everything in sight, and he's known as the one who destroyed Atlantis initially.
So powerful it destroyed Atlantis.
But at the same time, we see that he's influenced by the music band Helsing is using. When he's exposed to different music, he quickly stopped. And when we first see him, he's welcoming of the crews coming to Atlantis. So even though he was brainwashed to destroy, he himself doesn't seem to want to hurt anybody. Next, we have Linda and Mike. They were a little tricky to place. They clearly love their kids and want what's best for them.
Maybe he'd be better off where we live. There's more humans.
But it's hard to ignore the way they passive-aggressively demean Dracula and the other monsters, simply for being monsters. They encourage Mavis to live outside Transylvania and give Dennis a normal life, calling him normal in place of calling monsters all abnormal.
I think Dennis just wants to be normal.
They do warm up to the monster world eventually, but it's clear that for the majority of the series, they are extremely uncomfortable with it. I guess it takes some adjustment. Alright, so we're gonna place Fly here. He's the most neutral of the cast, just going around the hotel doing various tasks such as leading exercises. He doesn't seem to have any strong feelings concerning anything. He translates for Quasimodo, but seems unfazed by Johnny being human.
He says Dracula has brought a human into the hotel.
He's the only one who doesn't bother being afraid of people or really hiding anything from anyone. Eunice, Frankenstein's wife, is next on our list. She's loud, abrasive, and unpleasant for a good portion of her time on screen.
English, please. Your voice is really annoying.
She cares for her husband and friends, but is unable to see her own faults. She claims humans are loud in the first movie, not seeming to catch the irony of her own screeching.
They hate us, they're vicious, and they're very loud!
Her time in the third film is mainly spent scolding Frankenstein for gambling.
Last time you gambled, you lost an arm and a leg. Literally.
And she really isn't of much use in any of the conflict. Next is Griffin. He's another friend of Dracula, and he's best known for his floating glasses and red curly hair.
I have red curly hair.
He's a cynic and tends to be on the more negative side of things, calling his friends out for being ridiculous and somewhat dim. He's prone to jealousy, pretending to be in a relationship when he sees almost all of his friends hook up.
You know, you have to be strong, honey, because what we have is unbreakable.
With the gray area complete, we now move into the darker territory, starting with the bad and moving into the evil. Quasimodo didn't play a very large part in the second movie, but he made himself a pest in the first. We can recognize that at first he's trying to do his job, but as things progress, he becomes more fixated on hunting down what smells like a human.
Esmeralda, you smell it again?
He doesn't care what chaos he causes in the process. His investigation leads to him invading everyone's space, as well as accusations towards them. It should be no surprise that Erica is low on our list.
I won't try and kill him.
I will kill him.
Granddaughter to the infamous Van Helsing, her whole life she's been trained to hate monsters.
Showing off his fangs. Ugh, it's just like you taught me.
She sets a cruise up to lure countless monsters to their deaths, not caring how many families and children are taken down in the process. When she finds out that Dracula is attracted to her, she immediately uses it as a way to get him to let his guard down and launch an attack.
The food here is to die for.
She shows some sympathy after learning about Zings and is able to admit that monsters aren't as bad as she had been raised to believe.
You can't do this! You're wrong about monsters!
She even goes against her grandfather during the Kraken's attack. She does come around in the end, but since the majority of the time we see her, she's full of ill intent, we have to place her firmly in the bad territory.
I'm so sorry, Drac. I was trying to kill you this whole time.
Vlad takes the bronze on her list. He's what we can only call traditional as far as monsters go.
I raised my son to hate and kill and steal the souls of humans.
When we meet him, he has no interest in humans or entertaining the idea that his grandson might not have any vampiric tendencies. He tries scaring the fangs out of Dennis, which only resulted in his birthday being ruined.
A few more seconds and the kid's fangs would have popped right out.
Initially repulsed by the idea of humans and monsters together, he comes around, seeing how everyone came together to fight the threat of giant bats. While he does defend his family, he's also selfish and shown to not value much of his son's input, despite Dracula being a success. He thrives on being eye candy for the witches and doesn't prove to be very heroic in the third film. Bella, Vlad's former companion, takes the silver medal of evil.
I smell humans!
This guy oozes fury and resentment towards basically everyone. He follows Vlad's lead, likely only because Vlad has kicked his butt in the past. He has no issue tormenting young children, threatening Dennis and Winnie when he finds them.
Humans don't belong with monsters!
He leads a whole army to attack a defenseless hotel full of people and monsters just trying to relax with their families. He is defeated in the end, but for the time we see him, he causes a lot of damage. Just a repulsive character. Our most evil character should be no shock to anyone. For this placement, we had to choose the bitter and vengeful Van Helsing.
There are monsters hiding amongst you!
Now more machine than man, he has not improved over the years. He held on to his urge to destroy monsters his whole life, choosing to replace parts of his body just so he can see his revenge through to the end.
Oh, girl, it's an improvement, really.
He controls a beast of the deep, attempting to wipe out entire families, and is quick to write off his own granddaughter when she shows sympathy towards Dracula. He shows no remorse when he thinks he might have killed her, making the simple comment of, "Guess the family name ends with me," before trying to continue his rampage.
I guess the legacy ends with me. That's an awkward ending.
That's pretty ruthless. We're glad he was defeated, even if it was by pretty weird means.
I'm a slave to the river!
But what do you think? What monsters and humans have the purest heart? And which are the most vile? Let us know. Hit that notification bell and make sure to binge our Good to Evil playlist, where we rank the morality of the characters in your favorite cartoons, movies, and shows. And video games too, over on our gaming channel, WickedBinge. But most importantly, stay wicked.